Khaybar, Khaybar, ya Yahud. The most anti-Semitic statement that could be made by a Muslim, an Arab, anyone from the Middle East, hell, even in the United States and in the Western world. What's the significance of Khaybar? You see this chant during protests, especially by extremists, when they're trying to describe what's going on today with the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. My name is Shawn, and I'm the author of the Patriot Jihadi. I grew up in the Middle East. I was trained by Hezbollah to be a child soldier and to hate Christians and Jews. The reality is you have to look into history. What is the Battle of Khaybar? This happened in the 7th century when those who lived in Khaybar, which were migrants from Judea, who had gone down to what we know today as the Saudi Arabian area for trading purposes, for living, because they were trying to escape the Roman conflict. Now, what happened during this battle? There were some Jewish tribes that had conspired to basically fight off Muhammad and then the Muslims. During this course, obviously, there was some bloodshed. And the reality is we have to look at the situation from a tribal perspective. We're talking about 7th century. The dynamics of how things transpired were based on tribal culture. We have to take into consideration tribe, culture, and we have to also look at lineage. When you're talking about Jews, when you hear the term the Jews, the Yahudi, they're literally referring to the tribe of Judea. That's where it comes from. However, extremists, they can't differentiate between the two. Their hatred is so bad. It is so strong because they think in tribal thought process. They can't let go of things. So they're going to have whatever the situation is at the time and turn it into a tribal conflict, which in today's society turns into anti-Semitism. When a person is born in the United States and they're Jewish, that had nothing to do with what happened in the 7th century. When a person is born today in any of the Arab world, in any of the Middle Eastern country, that had nothing to do with what happened in the 7th century. But yet the culture is what drives them. So when we're talking about indoctrination, these types of hatred, these types of statements are simply handed down from generation to generation to generation to generation, and it never stops, and it fuels the extremists. I'll give you a story. I was in Jordan, and we were in, I believe, the 4th circle, and right in front of us, there was a traffic jam. And if you've ever been to the Middle East, you understand that they don't have lines on the street, so people drive crazy. That's the way my people are. Very seldom are you going to have an accident anyway. I think some of the Americans need to learn how to drive from Middle Eastern folks. Needless to say, an accident happened right in front of us. And it was a Datsun versus a BMW. And I was about the 3rd car back with some relatives who are originally Palestinian. And we get out, and I can hear over the beeping that's going on, the chaos that happens. And I hear one guy ask the other guy, "Where are you from?" And he says, "I'm Palestinian." And the other guy, who was in the BMW, happened to be Jordanian, an original Jordanian. And what happened is they both at the same time started cursing the Yahud. And I'm thinking to myself, what in the hell is going on here? So I asked the guy that I was with, one of my relatives, and I said, "Hey, why are they cursing the Yahud? We're in Jordan. There's no Yahudis around here." And he says, "Listen, this guy in the Datsun, he's Palestinian. This guy here, he is Jordanian. They both thinking same thing. If the Yahudi don't kick the Palestinian out in 1948, this guy would not be here. This accident would not happen. So this, in their mind, fault of the Yahudi." This is what I'm talking about, the culture. So you have poor Jewish people are getting cursed because of an accident between two Arabs, but yet they're being blamed. Why? Because they grew up their whole life with everything being blamed on the Jews. To the conspiracy theories of Jews control the weather. By the way, if you're controlling the weather, can we get some rain over here, please?